heard so much about the banana pie at Dona Manis, a traditional bakery in Singapore. And when I asked my followers on Singapore Noodles who have had it about what they like about this pie, they say that it's the texture of having both a flaky pastry and a buttery crust, and it's also the winning flavour combination of chewy coconut, slightly crunchy almonds and soft bananas. And it sounded absolutely mind-blowing, so I thought that I would try to recreate it even though I've never ever had this pie before. So the very first component that I'm preparing is a flaky pie dough. You want some cold diced butter in a bowl, and to that you're going to add some plain flour, a little bit of sugar for some sweetness, and some salt to balance the flavors out. So using your fingertips, you want to flatten and rub the butter into the flour. And when you don't see any trace of white flour left, just add a tiny bit of water to bind everything together. At this stage, it should look a little bit crumbly, but when you press it together, it should hold together like a dough. So to make the pastry extra flaky, what I'm doing is patting it out, and then I'm cutting it in half, and then I'm stacking the two halves on top of each other, and then pressing it out again. So you want to repeat this process for another 2 more times, so that this is actually creating layers, just like how you would when you're making a puff pastry. So because the pastry is going to sit as a ring on the circumference of the tart, it is very helpful to have a guide. So what you want to do is trace an outline of your tart pan onto a sheet of baking paper. And then you want to cut the dough into pieces and place them in a circle using this outline as a guide. You want to cover it with a second sheet of parchment and then roll the dough ring out slightly until it's the thin sheet of dough. You want to place it in the refrigerator until this firms up, just about 5 minutes, and then peel off the top layer of parchment and turn it upside down. Cut along your penciled line to trace the outer circumference of the circle. And then now you want to cut a smaller circle. This will be the inner circumference of the dough that you're going to be putting on the pie. When you're done, you want to peel away the parchment and the excess pastry and allow this to chill in your refrigerator while you work on the second component, which is the buttery crust. So for this, I am preheating my oven. And in a bowl, I'm combining some butter, some water, some oil, sugar, and salt. So chuck this bowl into the oven that is currently preheating. And in the meantime, you want to butter your tart pan. After about 15 minutes, the butter would be melted and it should start to brown. So that's how you know it's ready. You want to add the flour to it and mix it well to form a dough. You might think that this is a very unusual way to make tart dough, but that's what I normally do because it produces really great results and it doesn't require much time. So once the dough clears from the sides of the bowl, it should look kind of like when you're making choux pastry. So what you want to do is press it into your tart pan, making sure that it's not overly thick on the base or the sides. And when you're happy with the way that it looks, you want to trim away the excess pastry and prick the dough all over with a fork. So with this dough, you don't have to wait for it to chill, it can go straight into the oven to bake. When the crust is a nice golden brown, it's ready. Now we move on to the bananas. So you want to peel and thickly slice 5 bananas. Looking at some photos of the Dona Manis pie, it seems as though they use a banana that is of a darker yellow color. Unfortunately, where I live, I only have access to the white fleshed ones. That's what I'm gonna be working with. So you want to fill your tart crust with the sliced bananas. I like to arrange it such that it is slightly domed in the center. And now we can move on to the heart of this pie, which is the coconut filling. From what I know, this coconut filling is very similar to the Hong Kong coconut tart filling. So to your grated coconut, you want to add some melted butter and 1 egg. Some coconut cream, I use Cara because it's reliably good. Sugar, some salt, and some baking powder. If you live in Singapore and you have access to finely grated coconut, finer than what I have here, I think that will be even better and closer to the original pie. Now you can add some gula melaka or some Chinese black sugar and stir it well. So I'm also adding some ground almond to help absorb some of the moisture that comes out from the grated coconut. And now pour the grated coconut over the bananas, and you want to level it out with a spoon or with spatula or with your hands. So to get that Dona Manis look, you want the surface to look as smooth as possible. Now when you're happy with that, get your flaky pastry from the fridge and place that onto the pie. You want to kind of mold it to the circumference of the pan, making sure that it has contact with the pastry underneath, so that it will kind of mold together and stick together as it bakes. And now you want to scatter over a generous handful of almonds. It should be generous because this is what gives the top layer its crunch and also its fragrance. You want to avoid getting the almond on the pastry. You just want to focus it on the area that has the coconut. And now brush the pastry with some egg wash. I'm using some egg yolk beaten with some water. So bake this in the oven for about 45 minutes or until your pie is as golden brown as this.